Good day. A lot of people believe that darkness and light are on far ends of a spectrum. And in some situations, you can look at it that way. There's just lack of light. There is no darkness, right? And that's one way to look at it. However, another way to look at it is that when you're in the light, you're the closest to the darkness. Because when you're in the light, you're going to be preyed on by darkness. And it is important that we understand that the people that are the darkest seem like they're standing in the light. And that's a really confusing thing because, that also points at who is good, right? Who is good and who is bad? Like, who is holy people or people that are holy? A lot of people believe that they're the opposite. And there is a truth to that. Like, that's what Antichrist consciousness is when you're putting on a show of holiness to gain the world, And this is a real situation, and I wouldn't expect people to trust me until they trust me. I guess when we're trying to make judgments or discernments on who is good and who is bad, one should be do their action match their words? Is a big one you should look at. A lot of people speak a lot on their virtues and then live a whole other life. And some people do that because they really are just full of crap. But there's a lot of people that are trying to change, so they speak on their virtues and there is two of them still existing. There's the old them and the one that's trying to transcend the old ego. And so in those situations, we have to even make decisions too. Like, are they just falling back into their old ways and they are actually trying to be virtuous and that's why they speak on virtue? Or is it that they're just full of crap, So we have to be very careful with making these judgments. So first of all, if you're saying, oh, they're just full of crap, most of the time you're going to be wrong. Because full of crap means they're all bullshit. There's no truth to their virtue. And the likeliness of somebody having no virtue is slim to none. So we can make judgments on people's actions, like situational actions. That's why we make judgments on people's works, not as much on what they're trying to have people see them as. And another reason why a lot of people are confused about who's dark and who's light is that there's a lot of dogma that's built into religions that point out certain behaviors as pathological or evil when they a lot of the time are not. When you look at a lot of Christians, they're very conservative, and conservatism is traditions, right? However, conservatives are most likely to pathologize plant medicines like cannabis or like mushrooms or like ayahuasca or like peyote, and they're likely to even call those things evil because what the church told them. The church just works hand in hand with these pharmaceutical companies and all of that. They want people to be dependent on medicines made by the government. I believe cannabis and these medicines are more traditional than a lot of what Christianity is. Like, we're talking about ayahuasca and stuff being used from 3,000-4,000 years ago, right? And also, we have to know that Cannabosum is in the anointing oil in the Bible. In the book of Enoch, which is at least 2,200 years old, it has cannabis in it. So I follow a guy on YouTube because he's walking the narrow path. However, he's picked up on some of these dogmas that the church has built. There's some times when he talks against some New Age stuff, for example, crystals, or like there is certain New Age stuff that I think we should be dangerous with, just as I think we should be looking at certain Christianity that's dangerous. It's like on both sides. However, he also talks about how bad weed is, and he has an ideology around cannabis. Yet cannabis is what is going to save the world in these times. It's one of the plants that's going to save the world from what's going on. And the fact that he's able to make such a, call it pathological altogether and cast a net over it, shows that he is following dogmas and ideologies that are not traditional, But I still watch his videos, and I write him messages if I feel that he's saying stuff that's a bit here and there, because it's, but I like 95% of what he says. Just like when I'm speaking with most Christians and most real spiritual people, I like most of what they say. Like the people that are really trying to walk the narrow path, I'm mostly on board with them. We may just see it from a different way or perceive it in a different way. However, it's almost as if we're all experiencing that same spirit. For some of these people, like Mark the Messenger, which he's the guy I like to watch. He's a chosen one. He's out there speaking the truth and trying to live the path for God, and I really respect how he is. And then but I think if he saw the fact that, I am a cannabis medicine producer, and I have crystals, and I look to other faiths and religions and mythologies for teachings, that he might see me as, I don't know about him. Like, he might question, if he knew me straight up, he'd be like, I don't know, because he's got these other dark things. So that old dogma that the church carries and other communities carry, it's not, we have to be very careful to judge people on those kind of things, right? Another reason why people that are in the light seem like they're the closest to the darkness, or you can't tell if they're good or evil, is the fact that when somebody in the light is around you, they're going to be pointing out some parts of yourself, or the person that they're hanging with, the chosen person is hanging with, the person with the light is hanging with, is going to be pointing out pathologies in the other person, and the other person's going to see them themselves, and they're going to easily tell themselves a story that the light bringer is actually dark, and that's a way to preserve their ego. There's lots of different reasons why you'll hear people badmouth holy people. And there's the more haters that you have in these times, when society is as demoralized as it is right now, that's you hear somebody hating on somebody, you should go just experience them for yourself and make it, without any of those stories in your head, and you see for yourself what that person is. And you'll probably notice the people that are hated on the most in these times are actually the ones that are carrying the light around, trying to smudge out the darkness. And that's how the devil works in us, as we fight holy people to hold on to these bad parts of our egos and bad parts of ourselves. And that's the flesh. That's the devil. And so all of you out there that are choosing to walk the narrow path, not only not walk the narrow path, but carry that light around all the people. You have to be very vigilant. You have to know that you're going to attract darkness. You're going to attract light too, though. You're going to attract so much light that the darkness isn't going to want to come around you anymore. But it takes time, right? The darkness has to realizes that they have no power on you, and then they just leave you alone. That's how it works. But they're at the beginning, when you start walking that narrow path especially, that darkness is going to be on you. And you have to stand strong. And you have to get used to being alone, because you have to segregate yourself from toxic people. You know, that's part of walking the narrow path. And you have to be ready to be hated. But the good thing is you will know as you're walking this narrow path that hate isn't real. You know, that hate that you get from people is actually their own self-hate, right? And envy that of the light. They're just not conscious of that. So it's not hate. It's just low vibrational confusion. So I'm on my way to church today. It's Sunday, and a lot of Christians will even pathologize somebody that praises on Sunday, because Sabbath is Saturday, right? And I can understand why they switched it to Sunday, and it's due to like running the society. It's like working with the government, working with the society and the church. You know what I mean? And they're like creating something that works around their system, you know. And it doesn't, to me, if people are meeting up on Sunday, then that's a time that we can come together and praise. Another dogma that we can't judge somebody on. There's so many of these, right? We should be very careful with attending any churches or groups of people that don't allow you to speak. Because a part of our journey is speaking our truth forward. And the reason I'm going to this church is because they allow people to speak. And I've spoke a few times, and I've even had people like thank me for speaking because I said something they really needed to hear. And I do think churches have to be a little lukewarm just to pay the bills with such divisive ideologies going around, right? They don't want to talk about certain things, and they have to stay lukewarm just to pay the bills. You know, so that's why I like that I can speak. If I feel that the sermon was overly maternal, which is kind of how you can keep things lukewarm, is just like stay away from the judgment and repentance and all these other like more masculine parts of Christianity, then you won't make people feel uncomfortable, you know? So they tickle people with their words. So when I feel that it's a little too maternal, or that it's not too maternal, or it just lacked the paternal, then I can speak on the paternal. And that's what I did a few weeks back. And I had a woman speak right after, and she said, I really needed to hear that. Thank you so much. So, and, you know, I think that people need that hard truth sometime, and that's harder for the church to do. So I'm happy to fill that role, and if they allow me to speak, then that's great. So if they allow people to speak, that's a true church. If they're this top down, and they don't allow you to experience and speak on your truth, and if they're using unuseful dogma on you, then find new church. Because not all Christians are spiritual. You know? Anyways, much love and God bless.